January 19th, 2017. Guys, there's information coming out that correlates with what we've been talking about for several years now, and it's coming from a trio of swarm satellites that were launched in 2013. You're looking at an image of this. Now, what they were set up to do was fly around the planet and measure our shields, the Earth's magnetic field, and they measure it from what's coming from outer space into the top or the northern side of our magnetic field and passes through the core of the Earth, then out the other side. And what they are using now with the technology above these aboard the three satellites, guys, is the ability to measure the magnetic field inside the Earth's core. And now they're saying that we're getting what's called a jet stream in the outer core of the Earth. And what the outer core, guys, is the area that's surrounding the inner core that's molten lava. What they're doing now is they're showing that inner core is speeding up. Now, when you have this happen, the dynamo, which is the inside of the Earth, is like an electric motor that uses magnets. As it spins and creates electricity, it creates a magnetic field. Now, let me just back up a minute. As we go into solar minimums, we see the magnetic field of the Earth weaken. That exposes us not to solar radiation, but to external radiation, guys, from outside of our atmosphere. Now, what we're seeing in this new study that's coming in now, even though they were launched in 2013, just a month ago we're getting the latest data, is showing that the core, the stream, or the jet stream is what they're calling it, of the inner core is speeding up. Now, why would that occur during a solar minimum? We're seeing a perfect balance in some ways, and let me explain that. What we're seeing is about a 9-day pattern or so of these coronal holes, or these large openings in the magnetic canopy of the sun, and that allows the solar stream to pour towards our planet. We're seeing it now, 600 kilometers per second. Solar winds doubling in the usual speed, and it's been going on in cycles for the last couple of months. So what we're seeing is, in God's perfect balance, in one study, is the fact that because we're going into a solar minimum as far as sunspots, coronal mass ejections, that the sun is making up for that in a sense by the coronal holes being created. And what we're seeing is energy being fed through these high solar wind speeds into the core of the Earth. Now, since 2013, the jet stream that's flowing around the core has sped up. What does that mean? Now you say, well, at the speed that they're talking about, which is 25 miles an hour. You say, well, that's not that fast. But you're talking about something that's thousands of kilometers thick. And when you're talking about planetary movement, you see the fault zones move at millimeters per year, not kilometers, which you're 25 miles, you're roughly over 40 kilometers per year. And that, again, has sped up. So what we're seeing is a perfect balance between solar minimum and the sun's creation of the coronal holes, increasing the amount of energy applied to the core of the planet, increasing the electric field that is our shields. In other words, making up for the solar minimum. And while it is increasing the shields and protecting us from cosmic radiation, not solar radiation. Now, let me read a little bit about this. It says, measuring the magnetic field is one of the few ways we can look deep inside our planet. This is Chris Finley from the Technical University of Denmark. He says, we know more about the sun than Earth's core because the sun is not hidden from us by 300 kilometers of rock. Now, that's true, but we're dealing with the outer core, this flow of liquid iron. The field, or the magnetic field, exists because of an ocean of superheated, swirling liquid iron that makes up the outer core like a spinning conductor in a bicycle dynamo or any dynamo. This moving iron creates electrical currents, which in turn generate our continuously changing magnetic field. And we've seen that It goes on to say that tracking changes in the magnetic field can therefore tell researchers how the iron in the core moves. The accurate measurements by the unique constellation of the 3 swarm satellites allow the different sources of magnetism to be separated, making the contribution from the core much clearer. Now, this new article, and this is new to science, says a paper published in Nature's Geoscience described how swarms measurements have led to the discovery of a jet stream in the core. Phil Livermore from the University of Leeds in the UK and lead author of the paper says, thanks to the mission, we have gained new insights into the dynamics of Earth's core, and it's the first time this jet stream has been seen, and not only that, we also understand why it's there. We'll see. One features a pattern of flux patches in the northern hemisphere, mostly under Alaska and Siberia. Just had a big volcano going off in Alaska. These high-latitude flux patches are like bright spots in the magnetic field, and they can make it easy to see changes in the field. In other words, they see these spikes and these peaks. 3 satellites have revealed that these changes are actually a jet stream moving at more than 40 kilometers a year, 25 miles an hour, roughly 3 times faster than the typical outer core, and hundreds of thousands of times faster than the Earth's tectonic plate movement. We can explain it as an acceleration in a band of core fluid circling the pole like the jet stream in the atmosphere. And he says, what's causing this jet stream and why is it speeding up so quickly? The jet flows along a boundary between 2 different regions in the core. When material in the liquid core moves toward the boundary from both sides, as anything does when it speeds up, the converging liquid is squeezed out sideways, forming this jet. Now, there's another study and another analysis. Let's look at this because we're in changing times. We know this Earth will be shaken. But this group says observations of the change in Earth's magnetic field, called the secular variation, provide information about the motion of liquid metal within the core that is responsible for the magnetic field generation. That's what we've always talked about. Let me just straighten this out. It's not within the core, it's the outer core. High-resolution observations from the Eurospace Agency swarm satellite, again, they're using that data, show intense field change at high latitude, localized in a distinctive circular chain configuration centered on the north geographic pole. Again, Siberia, remember, and Alaska. A westward jet of 420 kilometers width is circulating the fluid within the core. It's aligned with the rotation axis and the tangent to the solid inner core. It's moving the same direction as the planet. We find the jet has increased in magnitude again by a factor of 3 over the period from 2000 to 2016 and is now much stronger than typical large-scale flows inferred by the core. We suggest that the current accelerating phase may be part of a longer-term fluctuation of the jet, causing both eastward, listen, and westward movement of magnetic features over historical periods, and may contribute to recent changes in the torsal wave activity and the rotation direction of the inner core. Guys, do you understand what that means in layman's terms? It's a magnetic flip. They're talking about historical periods, and that's when they've seen it in the magma flows of when we had a magnetic change, a magnetic flip of the planet. And when you talk about recent changes in the torsal wave activity and the rotation direction of the inner core, guys, that's separating itself from the outer core of the crust. The Earth will be shaken. And that's what this study is showing. Now, as we get more information from this, guys, I will update it. It's very important because this new study that's just a month old is pointing exactly to the things we've been looking at. And it makes perfect sense, and we've got 2 different views, and I happen to agree with both of them in this case. Both that that it's speeding up, and even though they're not saying it, I'm saying it, it's because of these coronal holes that are giving this 700 kilometer plus solar wind stream, It's God's way of balancing out the solar minimum because of the galactic ray input or the cosmic ray input that we're going through this giant gas of helium, or giant gas cloud of helium, let me say that. And also that the earthquakes and the volcanoes are because of this change in the torsal wave activity. Google that. And the rotation direction of the inner core. When that changes, guys, everything changes. That can even indicate something more than a magnetic field change or a magnetic flip. We're talking about physically changing the poles. We're watching it. It's a heads up. Be safe.